Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I'm so happy you're with us today. As many of you may have figured out by now, we very, very seldom have near-death experiencers as our guests. And that's in part because many near-death experiencers are so sure because their experiences were so life-transforming that they think they died and they came back to life. And of course, that's never true. And the reason is simple. Death is always a one-way trip. Many near-death experiencers are sure because those experiences are so life-transforming. They're sure they actually died and they then came back to life. And why do we know that that's never true? Because there is a cord, and the Bible calls it a silver cord, which connects your ethereal body, your mystical body, with your material body. When it severs, that's death, and it can't ever be reattached. So you're either dead or alive, and if you're alive, you can't, if you die, that's it. It can't be reattached. Now, our guest today had a genuine near-death experience. He didn't die, but he almost did, and he was only 3. Our guest today actually is quite a wonderful man, and he's been here before. This is his 4th time with us, and I've loved talking to him, so I keep inviting him back. His name is Jacob Cooper, and as I say, is with us for the 4th time. He wrote a wonderful book. At first, he's written a couple of books. His first book was entitled Life After Breath. It begins with his remarkable near-death experience at the age of only 3. I've never actually heard of anyone who's had a younger near-death experience. His second book is called The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. It talks about his further extraordinary spiritual experiences and what he has learned from them. And Jacob is still a very young man, but the veil between worlds is thinning rapidly now, and those who are willing to open themselves to grow spiritually have learned so much from these really extraordinary experiences that many of them keep happening after that first near-death experience. Jacob, welcome. I'm so happy to have you back.
Wow, thank you so much, Roberta. It's the 4th time back. I almost feel like this is like a reincarnation every time I'm back on your show. And here on the 4th time, I guess, well, you incarnate, I guess, until you get it right. Maybe I didn't get it right in my other couple of interviews. And now, no, always a pleasure. And each time that I go, it's an oasis from this world to be in your presence. And I'm so inspired and influenced by the work and groundbreaking, research that you've done. So my sentiments go back to you tenfold. Thank you for all that you do and your incredible listeners. Thank you for tuning in to today's discussion.
It's very sweet of you. No, I always enjoy hearing about. Now, talk again about that experience when you were only 3. I mean, think of how. But let's think for a minute. How small, how inexperienced a 3-year-old is. How can you comprehend anything when you're only 3? Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I look at life through two lenses. One lens is the human lens, right? And that's influenced certainly my work as a mental health therapist, and working in the field of psychotherapy. But also I look at life through also another angle, and that leads to more understanding. Some could call that, the God vantage point or the soul vantage point. But the near-death experience on a very visceral human level, you're right, would not make sense. Obviously we're hearing, and not to get in specifics, but a certain candidate who's running for office has a saying, do you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? You exist in the context of which you came. And I say the
Right.
same thing within who we are and where we are. You think you just came out of womb and that's it. Wasn't more to you, there wasn't more intelligence, there wasn't more life before this life. So sometimes there's a synonymous association or identity with chronological age or the physical body and the soul age. And, my near-death experience and many others really stretches the context of which we could understand. ourselves and our experiences, which is, in short, we are just an infinite spiritual being having a temporary human experience. But yeah, like anything else, it had a lot of human complications, certainly. To be that young, you're kind of taught to forget everything in a way so that you can integrate yourself as a young child. And when you have this at such a young age, it rips the illusion, the veil of this facade that you were starting to, get into, hypnosis with was taken
Mhm.
away. And all of a sudden you recognize, wow, this is all just an act. This is all just a stage. And I'm here to play my role, but this isn't all that there is. And it
No,
was just a very abrupt reminder that there's such a greater intelligence beyond this reality. And this isn't
right.
just a human experience where we're here to eat food, to pay the bills, to pay our taxes. I mean, that's one part of it, but there is such a mystical connectivity and intelligence that goes far beyond understanding that brought us into being, in this life and all the lives that we, journey on. It is a soul thing in many
You were
ways.
on top of a ladder of a slide, right?
Yeah, and that's really the allegorical symbology of my second book, The Wisdom of Jacob's Ladder. And I know we were talking in the show about some of my own Jewish roots and the name of Jacob, and Jacob, you think of Jacob from the Bible, but he was fleeing from his brother Esau, do the covenant with his father. And he had his own proverbial near-death experience in a way where his life was in jeopardy, in peril, and he fled for his life. He rested in a place that's now known as Beit El, or Beit is in Hebrew is house, El the Lord. So I've actually been to that place in Israel, but he took a sleep there and he saw the angels going up and down the ladder. And so I didn't have a sibling of mine who was trying to kill me. Don't want to be specific, but I was similar to Jacob, on a ladder when I had my near-death experience, and I did see angels all around me. So, uh, your name, I think, reveals a lot about your soul's essence and your potential, and nothing is random. So I'm blessed to have him, and it's been a theme throughout my whole life. But yes, I suffocated as a result of whooping cough. And so that's the reference of my first book, which was a homage in a way to Raymond Moody's Life After Life, with my own spin-off, Life After Breath, because I suffocated
Right.
and there was still, continuity of life. And I really emphasize, how valuable the breath is and what it means. But essentially, from losing all of my human breath, I was aware that we all are just seeds of the breath of creation. Uh, and that in the Hebrew language, the word for spirit is ruach, which just literally means the breath or the wind of God. And so when my human breath was gone, I remembered, the true breath that we all come from. And that's certainly influenced the work that I do with a lot of mindfulness focus and breath work, because I think that's incredibly valuable for connectivity between the two worlds.
Yeah, but it's amazing that a child so young, and this is yet more, I tell people over and over again, we come into this world, you look into the face of a newborn,
Hmm.
and you're looking into the ages.
Oh
That
yeah,
that
yeah.
is not that is not any, sort of a nascent, that's not a seed. That is not a seed you're looking at. That's an ancient being
Oh sure.
face you're looking into. And when I looked at my own newborns, I saw that ancient face. I mean, that face has been here before.
Oh
And
yeah.
amazed to be back,
Yeah.
and very surprised to be back.
Well, we have obviously euphemisms in the English language, but one of them is just one of the things that we have is the eyes are the windows of the soul. But that is a very ancient understanding. It goes back to ancient Chinese face readings, if you will.
Yeah,
About a year ago, I had a very renowned prominent individual who's been back in the day when Tyra Banks had her show and stuff like that. Her name is Barbara Roberts, but she specializes in Chinese face readings, and one of the components is the eye radiance that you're referencing. That when you sometimes look at an eye of another person, if it's an older soul, it's often like you feel like you could look through it. Versus a younger soul, it's, kind of like it just kind of comes back to you. There's not a lot of warmth or radiance behind it. And so, Barbara and a lot of different other face readers will give examples of just the eyes of, people like Yogananda or the Dalai Lama or just some, people who we just know are, you know, evolved souls or elder souls. And so, and we could learn certainly from people on different parts of their earth school too, younger and older. It's not that one is better than another, but yes, it just reminds you that physically, yeah, that kid looks very cute, but you look in the eyes, undeniably, you could see that spark and that radiance
Oh,
and that
yeah.
depth there. So,
Yes. But it is astonishing. You can see it in newborns. You can see
yeah.
it. It's quite, and
Oh, yeah.
and I knew it before I had my first child, but then when I
Well,
look into their eyes, I was amazed. They've been here before, and they're surprised to find themselves back again.
it's a very special connection that you see and you have. And I'm wondering too if you feel there's also potentially past life connectivity because you feel, there's billions of people on the planet. And for us to have, kids or grandkids, a couple of them that we know of, what are the chances that it's just random, that there's no other prior connection beyond this life? And,
No,
you
wait, they
know,
clearly it is. Oh, it
and
clearly
they
is.
if they are so lucky to have you as a grandmother. Man, talk about winning the jackpot over there, right?
I don't know. I'm not sure they would say, well, maybe they would say that because we certainly have a very, very, very happy family.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, but it is extraordinary, extraordinary when you know all of this and then you look at other people and there sometimes really is a connection instantly and you can feel it and you can
Mhm.
see it.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
it's quite a wonderful thing. You must find that too as you're going about your life and you're
I
seeing it
do.
in others.
I'd often reference to my clients who, and I work in psychotherapy, who they will speak of themselves and their own doing overrides their own being. And from a young age, we're taught, hey, you get a great grade on the test through your own, that's something that we do. All of a sudden we feel great. Our being is great. And we do poorly on that test, our doing is poorly, then our being is poorly. But I have to emphasize, when my clients constantly critique themselves is when he came to this world, most certainly, not in all cases, but most certainly people would say, wow, what a perfect, beautiful gift, that we have. They didn't say, oh, you're this and you're not that, you're not as smart as your sibling, you're not making as much money as your friend. They just saw just the pure divine beauty. But somewhere down the road, we started to believe that we were something other than which we were when we came into being. And that sense of belief is so pivotal in our lives. I mean, beliefs aren't a thing, they are everything. And so what we believe about ourselves is often influential in what we think about God, and vice versa. If we love ourselves unconditionally, we have the capacity to have an unconditional understanding of the Creator, and vice versa. It goes hand in hand. But beliefs are such a big role within the mental health crisis going on. And I think people have to catch themselves when they have other people's or other images taking over of their divine image, others' projections over their own light.
I think one of the things that people who do what you do and who do what I do find ourselves really needing to do is to help to people to reinforce their sense of strong self,
Mhm.
the parts of them that are the best, the holiest, the closest to God, the
Mhm.
closest to spirit, the
Oh,
closest to love, because many people don't understand that that's really what they're here to do, rather than um, people will, I find people so often will see the least that's in themselves and say, oh, that's who I am. But it isn't. You know,
right.
it's almost like we have to sort through the trash, find the gold, and hold it up high and say, yes, that's who I am.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then reinforce and polish and shine that and that and follow that and say, yes, this is who I am. There's nothing else but pure gold in me.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's what we're here to do, to help people find that gold and hold it high and reinforce it. And pretty soon that's all they are,
Mhm.
is that gold.
It's very Christ-like, right? I mean, who know the kingdom of heaven in many ways, better than Jesus Christ? But what he would say is the light or the kingdom in heaven in me is in you too.
Yeah.
That it's not in the hands of select few. Spirituality isn't monopolization or, capitalism for the few and not for the, it's for the all. And so I think we have to remember that. Uh, and sometimes we give our power away to external sources or figures, but those people should just be inspirational forces to go inward, not to depend outward on their teachings. And so I think all great teachers help us go within and to go deep within and to be empowered
Jesus
within
said,
ourselves.
everything I've done, you shall do also.
Yeah,
Jesus said, the kingdom of God is within you.
that's it. That's
Yeah,
it. Yeah. Yeah. So it's funny in our world how there's a bit of a correlationship in religion with what we do and who we are. Where all of a sudden, it's just kind of like transactional. If you do a certain amount of deeds, then you go there, not recognizing that heaven is a dwelling place of all of our souls. And, certainly I do believe within lifetimes there's ascension based off of different factors, but we all eventually come back to the light, and that's our natural dwelling place. It's not like a rewards game, if, in a way. And, what type of all-loving God would say, you know what? For a certain amount of the population that believes in this stuff, you get a pass. But for the vast majority of people who don't believe in this sect of religion or spirituality, you're all dispelled. So it would, and these are his own creation, his or her own creations. Um, doesn't make it doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense that
no, it doesn't.
uh,
No, no. And actually, Jesus came to believes this, but it's right in the Gospels. Jesus came to end all religions and to teach us to relate to God one on one individually. That's what Jesus came to do. Jesus
oh
came to
yeah,
do also. He didn't come. I don't know. I don't think I meant to talk with you about this, but I think it's very, very important that people understand that Jesus is not a Christian to this day. He never was.
right.
He always was a Jew.
Yeah, no, no, absolutely. People do forget that. We just have to wonder, um, certainly as a therapist, I believe in historical references on a micro level. I think for people to really move the needle of their lives, they need to be their own best historians. They need to understand the point of origin behind maybe some of the pathological viewpoints or behaviors. And from only going to the root, could you really find the healing? You have to go to the wound in a way to heal, to so to speak.
That's right.
Um,
You have to clean the wound and heal the
and
wound. That's right.
collectively, there's a lot of patterns obviously regurgitating itself throughout thousands of years. And my hope is each person could be a better um, micro and macro historian so that we could move the needle and understanding that the behaviors that have occurred themselves for thousands of years just do not work. And we're meant to evolve and grow from some of those, natural but unnatural tendencies that we've learned, you know. So,
Yes, people call themselves Christians and they're angry with the Jews for killing Jesus. But the reality is Jesus was, is, a Jew. And if people hate the Jews for killing Jesus, they're really hating Jesus.
Hmm.
So no Christian who hates Jews, they're really hating Jesus. That's the
Right.
reality. They're not following Jesus.
Yeah.
They're rejecting Jesus too.
Hmm.
I don't
Well,
understand. I cannot understand any of it. Jacob, help me to
yeah.
understand it.
Well, I don't understand the hatred that we have, for our brothers and sisters. Um, I could understand being frustrated with people who, and Jesus would say, Father, forgive them, for they not know what they have done.
That's
But
right.
there
Forgive
are
me.
some people who
Yes.
know exactly what they're doing, and they're pushing those buttons. So I can understand the natural rage that we have. But for the vast majority of us who are just trying to live our lives and to take our anger out or scapegoat others just doesn't add up, doesn't make sense. And, look, I think we're only as good as our ability to rise our surroundings. And I think high tides rises all boats. And I think if each of us individually would take responsibility for our energy and to think globally by acting locally and being our brothers and sisters keeper, we'd have a much, greater world. I mean, allegorically, I had my near-death experience in a playground, and you could look at a playground from a plethora of angles. But when I logically break it down, I say, okay, child in a playground seeing angels, what does that mean? And to me, the message is we are all just children in the eternal playground of God, here to be our brothers and sisters keeper, here to take care of each other, here to play, here to laugh, and to not wait till we proverbially die to find that joy, to find that connectivity, but to apply that awareness of the hereafter in the here now. And I think if each person remember who they are, we could remember who we are. That's what's
You're
important.
full of these profound sayings. I want to write them all down. If we would each remember who we are, we'll remember who they are, and
Well,
vice versa.
you can, but I have a feeling it might be copywriting for my second book. No, no, I'd be honored by the shout outs, and I'm messing around, and I think so many people have such egos over even a written word in the spiritual teachings, and I just say none of this is mine. All the spiritual teachers are just connecting to the same stuff, and some people could get very oh my, very human about it, and I just don't understand it. It's just none of this stuff comes from me. I'm just a very basic guy who tries to fit into my pants and pays the bills and does my thing, but I get out of my own way, and that's where the greatness comes. It's not necessarily from me, and I think people need to remind ourselves you don't have to see yourself as extraordinary to experience it. You look at someone like Edgar Casey, who's just a regular church-going guy, and just a
But
very,
very psychic. He
a
was so
very, a
psychic.
very average guy. But again, through getting out of his own way, he was able to open up his mind, which is kind of like a parachute. Once it's open, it could really work. And that's where a
When
lot
it's
of,
open, it could work.
yeah,
Yeah,
and,
that's
and it
very
happened,
true.
and it happened through pain. I mean, Casey was experiencing, physical pain, and he did self-induced hypnotherapy to address the physical chronological pain that he was
Mhm.
experiencing. And through self-induced hypnosis, he was able to really awaken his higher mind. And I think if more people remember that we all have ability to connect, we really do. We just have to get out of our own way and practice, and it happens subtly. It's not like Patrick Swayze in the movie Ghost, where he's right in front of you with Demi Moore. It could be more on a subliminal, subtle level, but just listen to that soft voice. It's there. It's like a door opening and feeling a soft wind. It's a beautiful thing.
But lately, we're seeing such hatred. And
Oh
I don't
yeah.
understand hatred. I don't, of other people. Because to me, other people who look different are all the more beautiful for their difference. And
Hmm.
I've always seen it that way. I grew up in a town and in a school where everybody looked the same. And then when I was in high school, finally there was one girl who looked different.
Hmm.
a little bit. Uh, she was Jewish, and
Hmm.
she was the only other girl in my whole school who had a horse. So she and I started riding horseback together, and she became my best friend, and it was wonderful and terrific, and so on. But I didn't meet another black girl till I went to college. That was even more fun. Somebody else who's black. That was wonderful.
Hmm.
It never occurred to me, honestly. I didn't meet anyone else who was Asian till I went to college.
Hmm.
And I fell in love with him. My goodness. I
Right.
love people who look different. When I brought him home, because we were talking about getting married, that was the first time I discovered that my father was not happy with my wanting to marry somebody who looked so
Um,
different. That's my experience with the idea of racism. I cannot imagine anybody being race. I was not raised at all to be
mhm.
racist. So I'm discovering very late in life that there are some people who always have been racist. And I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
get it.
so much of it
Why?
is there's a lot of intergenerational components to it. Where kids, when you're born, you're not, you know, you don't come into this world with, I mean, obviously you have a lot of past lives and stuff like, but you come to this world normally with love, but like you're taught, hate, I think is something that is taught
It
in
has
many
to be taught
regards.
because I never
Um,
learned it. I never did.
no, so much of life is taught, but I think, what does it come down to? I think a lot of people could be one of many things. A, you're lazy, where you don't want to understand anything beyond your confines of your life, and you just want to keep your box and that's it, and not allow yourself to take the time to understand another's, way of being. And also, there's ethnocentrism and egocentrism where we just think we're somehow superior because we grew up a certain way and had certain values and people look down. I also think intimidation could be a part of it, where you're afraid of losing a certain vantage point in society to someone who may like, feel differently than you. But I think, in the New Age spiritual community, we have a saying called oneness. And, what does that exactly mean? Oneness does not mean to me sameness. It doesn't mean that we're all
No,
on
not
one
at
level
all.
the
I think
same.
it's more interesting when people look different. Don't you
Exactly.
think
And
so?
that and diversity, brings about our ability to expand our horizons, to know life through the journey of someone else, and to have this to be more a rich, diverse, eclectic, journey for all of our souls. While at the same time, at the end of the day, understanding that two things could be true at the same time. There could be some differences, but despite that, there could be unilaterally a connectivity that we all share. In a microbial level, if you take the difference of someone who is Caucasian versus someone black and put it under, like a screen, the differences are like next to none. It's just, in many
I
ways an
think black
illusion.
people are beautiful. I
So,
think that the
oh, of
difference is a
course.
beautiful difference.
Of
I
course.
think Jewish people are beautiful, and the difference is a beautiful difference. I think Asian people are obviously, I fell in love with one. The first
Yeah.
one I met and got to know, I just fell in love with him. I thought he was beautiful.
And that to me is like, what do people, I mean, I think a lot of people are trying to understand God, and that's one thing. But I think just the intellectual pursuit is not enough. I think learning how to behave and embody God is the next phase of our evolution. Just when
Learning
you
how to behave and
and embody
embody
God,
God is the
you know,
next phase of
that's the
our
next phase of
evolution.
our
You
evolution.
said something else beautiful. I
I
love
do believe
it.
that because I think I don't know, I could be in Seattle and intellectually understanding Japan or Australia, but until I'm there and until I live it, I really don't understand.
And all
And
these
so,
beautiful different cultures that have developed over thousands of years. And it has nothing to do with how the people look. It just has to do with their experiences that were different because
right.
they came out of their religions, out of their food,
Hmm.
out of their work, the way they have thought about different ways of developing work, developing
Oh, sure.
because of their weather and just the way they coped with things.
Oh, it's fascinating, but I know a lot
People
of the
are
show.
fascinating in general. Think about how fascinating people are.
Yeah, and I know a lot of emphasis on our work, maybe regarding the subject matter of death in a physical sense. But I
Yeah,
think, as we know, in many ways that's an illusion. But death in a human sense to me is very visceral and real, where you could have people that are physically alive, but they're completely stagnant in their evolution and their growth. There's no
yeah,
curiosity, there's no explanation,
yes,
there's
they're
no
lazy. You're
exploration.
right. You're right.
And that's maybe a laziness, or I think we fear the vulnerability of opening ourselves up to new worlds.
Yeah,
Um, but hey, we just, um, experience, we just celebrated Columbus Day or Indigenous People Day, and obviously Columbus, I think, was believed to be Jewish, but obviously there's a lot of pushback for some of the stuff. But hey, no one's perfect. But again, with
they tested
Columbus,
his DNA. He was
with
Sephardic Jew.
Sephardic Jew, but I'm saying no one's perfect. But the reason why I bring that up in terms of him or Magellan or some of these other explorers is just what they can teach us on an emotional, psychological, spiritual level, the value of being curious, the value of exploring. That's how we'll find other worlds. And if we're just kind of living in our own box, that's all we'll see. And I think people have to be vulnerable and daring enough to explore that because that's where growth and change can happen, is when you take yourself out of your own box and explore the world in the eyes of another. Um, and I think that is a big play at hand, you know, and I think part of that is ruled in empathy too. You know, every culture, every civilization has injustices, that they feel are real. And I think it's being able to listen to not where you're at, but where they're at. And, that's just on a macro level, being a therapist in a nutshell, being able to lead with empathy, to listen to others, and to meet them where they're at. You don't have to go to grad school to do that. You just have to develop your mirror neurons, which, is in the brain that relates itself to empathy, that could allow you to develop that muscle. But I think we're in very much an unempathetic place right now with so much hostility,
That's
and
right.
there's a
Yeah,
lot
and
of damaged brain that could lead itself to this behavior.
but think how
But it
useless
can be
that is.
fixed.
That whole reflex is useless. It doesn't even help the person who feels unempathetic. To be a person wrapped up in himself is a tiny package. He
Mhm.
doesn't help even himself or his family or his people or anybody. He
Right.
helps no one.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to talk to you about, which is entirely, I can see the time is passing. I wanted to ask you this time about your out of body experiences because I know you've had a number of them.
Mhm.
And people ask me all the time about out of body experiences, which I know we have them all the time, but I've never been aware. They've always been facilitated. Mine have been facilitated by my spirit guide, and I just am aware of being somewhere else, but I don't know how I got there.
Mhm.
So, could you tell me how you learned to do them? Or
Well, I think we all, on some level, do.
we all do them,
But
I know, but I
there
don't
was
know
like
how
there
to
was like a
do them.
series of events that led up to it. Um, and when I look back on it, the more the pieces of the puzzle come together as to how this came into being. Essentially, there was, one night where I was just remember very clearly, I was in my bed. And then all of a sudden, I just started to look at reality and all the things that I took so seriously and I thought that were real. And I started to look at those things and I saw the illusion behind all these things that I placed value in that were just so insignificant in the greater context of things. And I just began laughing hysterically. And this wasn't just like seeing a comedian and having a laugh at a certain level. No, this is laughing at every part of my cellular molecular body. And when I was laughing, I could body just squeezing out all the heaviness, all the tension. It was all just leaving. and I felt amazing. Now, certainly I know what a manic episode is or a psychotic break or, this wasn't it. This was a very much of an energetic, spiritual thing, not so much a psychological break or something like that. Uh, and so I kind of just woke up the next day and I was literally looking down at my body and I was out of my body for, several weeks. And I was in a community college, which made it quite challenging. I was at tables and I was with friends and people were like, "Why don't you eat?" And I'm like, Food just doesn't really do it for me. I don't, normally with food, it's such an emotional connection, but I'm like, you're taking all those routes to get to a certain place and I'm already there. Like, I don't need to take the routes. I'm already at that heightened euphoric place. And
My
so
word.
this lasted for several weeks where I felt an incredible warmth, in my heart where I could touch my heart on my third eye. And it felt like I was just touching an ocean. It was just expansive. And I could feel a flickering on and off eyeball in between my forehead that was like, I felt my third eye throughout my life, but this was like a literal eyeball that was like huge right in the middle of my third eye. And a part of me is like, what the F is going on? I didn't like tell anyone, but I just felt amazing. And I sat in a synagogue again around 20, almost 20 years to the day of my near-death experience. It was, right around the high holiday times in September. And I literally just felt myself carried by my animal totem, which was seeming like a hawk or an eagle type bird. And I felt myself lifting and going in the ceilings of the synagogue and looking down at every single participant. And I just saw, like you said before, this one strand of energy that connected each participant, the silver cord that each person was connected to. And I saw the interconnective wovenness of which we all are a part of. But I also
Wow.
saw how everyone was just boxed in into their own thoughts. And I saw that, you know, truth is there, but we could be separated from it and we could be living a lie. And I
Oh
just
my.
saw that in front of me. So, in life, intellectually, we understand we are all one, we're all the same. But to see it right in front of your face, right here, like I saw the angels, and this time as an adult, left me no shadow of a doubt that A, what I had as a kid, is absolutely real. And now I'm an adult, I'm having this. I'm like, this isn't just some childhood fantasy. I know this is without a shadow of doubt real. And to me, that was even more profound than my near-death experience. And it just gave me
Oh
an
yeah.
understanding of the interwoven phyla that we are all a part of, but also energetically, how much we have inside of us.
Oh.
And when we just move out of our own way, and people call it the chakras, which in Sanskrit just means kind of like spinning wheels or discs. And we hear about all these things, but when you really connect your energetic body, I'm telling you, I've had some hits of marijuana in my life, and nothing compares to this high. And it's a natural
Oh.
high, it's not artificial, and you feel remarkable because you're connected to your real self. It's just pure joy, pure euphoria, pure divine essence, and there's no descriptive words. And I wish everyone can have that, and that's influenced a lot of the work that I do is to just get people to squeeze out all of the stuff that gets in your own way and to be that natural
Oh.
projector screen. Because I think we all are these projector screens, but we have these shadows in front of the projector screen that we've seen as reality, which in a sense is an allegory, the cave from Plato. But once we connect to our pure light and not the shadows, that's when we'll feel, the divine lens, and we'll feel a heaven on earth when we do that.
Oh, that is so beautiful. Beautiful.
I wish I could take everyone to that moment, and that's why I love
Yeah.
sharing about it. Because in one way you can, but I just wish I could grab everyone who's hurting and take
Oh,
me
yes.
on with them on this journey to show them this is reality. This is our
Yeah.
true essence. You know,
That's just magnificent. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is just beautiful.
I didn't do anything. All I did was just laugh, and that's about it. But there is a power of laughter and joy. I often emphasize a group in India that was quite influential in my life, and they made a documentary of it called the Laughing Club of India. But essentially, most to a large percent of India is some of the lowest socioeconomic totem pole, of global civilization. And these people have nothing materially, and a lot of, their lives are just an incredible distress, and it's very adrenaline, fight or flight survival mode. But a lot of people, meet for a couple hours a day, and there's a documentary in this, and they just start laughing hysterically for no reason. And they find the joy by not having a reason for laughter, but laughter and joy itself, which is inside of all of us. And that's when you really have a lot more control of your life, when you don't have when you're not a leaf in water, but you generate your own emotional currents, you know?
Isn't
So,
that magnificent?
yeah.
And
So
Jesus
laughter is so
said, give
big.
away everything. Give away everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you will have it all in heaven. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, it's all one. It's all one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is so beautiful. Oh, that's just, oh, well, we can never top that. We've come to the end of our time, but what a way to end this
If
talk.
if anything else, and obviously listeners could chat to me privately, but do check out Laughing Club of India. And if you're interested, I do have sessions, that are mindfulness sessions, but also help people to really connect to that inner voice and the laughter within, the joy within. Therefore, you understand the things that you can control, the things that you can't. And I think what happens to us when we walk into, it's out of our control in many regards, and how we handle life is the only thing in our control, you know. So
It's Jacob L.
Jacob
Cooper.com.
L. Cooper, yeah, Jacob Cooper was taken by an imposter. I don't know who was, but there could be only one Jacob Cooper, right? Jacob L. Cooper. That's the website.
JacobLCooper.com. It'll
And
be in the notes. And or Jacob L. No, Jacob Cooper LCSW.
yeah, you could find me on Instagram and Facebook. Those are my Facebook page. Jacob Cooper LCSW, which just stands for Licensed Clinical Social Worker.
They'll
And
both be in the notes to this.
yeah,
Uh, wow, what a way to end this. Is no way anything could
mm,
ever top this. But this is that's been beautiful. I think we talked about that a little bit the last time,
mm,
but wow, that was magnificent. They're so, the things that you do are so beautiful, Jacob. I just am so delighted to know you and have you as a friend.
well, my sentiments are the same to you. And for any viewers going through a dark time, just remember the words of Albert Camus, when you're faced with darkness, find that invincible, or what we call internal summer, and oftentimes it's through the dark that we could see the lights, as we could just see the stars at night, and just allow darkness to not enslave you from that, but to allow yourself to remember who you are and to turn deep within. And that's my hope for the world and for people listening, is to tune into that invincible summer when it's light or when it's dark, and to remember that.
Well, it's truly been a joy to talk to you, my dear friend.
Thank
And
you, my friend. Thank you to all listeners.
we will do this again and stay because I want to talk to you afterwards. But
Sure.
I just have to sort of sign off here and talk about a little bit about next week. So, my dear ones, as always, this has been such a delightful time. I so much enjoyed talking to my dear friend. And as always, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. And please never forget, you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began, you never will end. That's the most important fact of your life. And when you get it, and when you get all the implications of that fact, it changes everything in your life for the better. Next week, our guest will be Nathan Castle. He'll be with us for the 10th time. Father Nathan is a Dominican priest. He was chosen by Spirit, I think about maybe 30 years ago now. Father Nathan was called by Spirit to do rescue work for people who become earthbound at death. And at this point, tragically, we're told by people who do do serious work, is that the number approaches 25% of those who don't make it initially and have to be rescued. This is something that uh, my dear Thomas tells me is true. This is something that we're told by people like our dear friend, well, dear friends of ours who do serious work tell us is true, and we're trying to change that. In fact, I'm probably going to do I'm going to write another book about it to try to help people understand how to avoid that problem. But meanwhile, you're going to love Father Nathan if you don't already know him. So please do tune in next week. This week, our wonderful friend Jacob Cooper has been with us, and wow, what a lead out he gave us. Jacob Cooper is a wonderful young seeker, and he's someone I purely love to help to because he nurtures people who are really kind of lost and need help. And many of them, like Jacob this week, like Ray last week, have had deeply spiritual experiences, and they're now passing along to others these wonderful lessons that they have learned from their own brushes with the eternal, and now they're sharing them. So again, you can contact, they're in the before this, below this interview, you can contact him. And I urge you, if you think he can help you, please do contact him. And as you know, our great friend Craig Hogan is the president and guru of Seek Reality Online. And yes, even if you are not happy about this fact, your life is eternal. So you may as well go to seekreality.com and start to learn for yourself how you can make your own eternal reality as happy as possible. And of course, teachingsbyjesus.com is your best resource for all the beautiful divine truths that are brought to us in perfect love by the greatest teacher of them all, Master Jesus. Now it really is Jesus's turn. As Christianity, the religion that was created by the Roman Emperor Constantine and not by Jesus, finally dies away, we can finally learn from Jesus what he actually did come to teach us. As you know by now, my own nonfiction books are Liberating Jesus, My Thomas, The Fun of Dying, The Fun of Staying in Touch, The Fun of Growing Forever, The Fun of Living Together, and The Fun of Loving Jesus, Embracing the Christianity that Jesus taught. For young children, there's The Fun of Meeting Jesus, and all these books are available through bookstores or on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com. If you want to talk to me about any of my books or about anything at all, you can always contact me through the green contact block on robertagrimes.com. And all of the more than 550 past episodes of Seek Reality are available wherever you can find audio podcasts, or on the video is available on Roku or Fire Stick. Meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy and make the most of this coming week in our one reality, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being, and you, most of all in the entire universe, this is really true, you are infinitely and eternally and perfectly loved.